What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Play Fighting with me, SoCal Honey Badger. I'm my partner here.
Ryan Stone, what's going on, everybody?
We are actually sitting on a very slow news week, but one interesting piece of wrestling lore. Ryan Stone texted me earlier that it is the 25th anniversary of the NWO.
26th.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. It's 26. Sorry.
He sent me a text that was like, dude, it's the 25th anniversary of the NWO. And I was like, really? And he was like, oh, wait, no, it's the 26th. And I was like, damn, a 25th anniversary NWO show would be kind of dope. But we kind of fucked that up by starting our podcast a year late. So here is our 26th anniversary tribute. And what we decided as a cool tribute was we were going to talk about the merits of the NWO representing the old school and the Bullet Club, which are basically just NWO cosplayers. There, I said
Oh, come on.
I said it. It's real. It's real because I made it into reality.
Oh, you bitch.
And see, that's where it all started out because, see, me and Ryan Stone, we seem to take diametrically opposed opinions. See, he seems to think for some reason that the Bullet Club is a bigger deal than the NWO, and I don't even
Maybe
think
not bigger deal, but I think the Bullet Club is better.
It's not even an argument. It's not even an argument for
Oh, there's
me.
an argument. There's an argument.
Right. Well, before we get into that, let me explain for some of you a little bit of history on the NWO so that you understand, okay? There was a time, an ancient time, a mystical time, magical time of 1996 where we listened to Alice in Chains and we wore baggier pants. It wasn't much different than today. I mean, you could still listen to Alice in Chains, but
I still wear baggy pants. I think I dress still like I was in 96.
Right. We're the
Wrestling
old
shirts and shorts.
we're the old dudes that wore fucking bell bottoms in the 90s, right?
Hey, those were Junko jeans. Don't you ever disrespect the name of those Junko jeans.
Well, they weren't really bell bottoms. They were like
No, they were just big ass fucking bottoms.
they were just like a skirt for each leg,
That's a good way to put it.
right? But in this mystical time of 1996, a wayward group of mysterious warriors with magical powers. It was Big Daddy Cool Diesel, the bad guy Razor Ramon, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, and the 1-2-3 Kid all jumped ship at once, leaving behind the forsaken lands of the WWF for the greener, more epic questing grounds of WCW. Also a fuck ton of money. And like I said, the $1 Million Man
That should be the first one.
was in that list. Right? And I mean, we could go into the finer minutia of the history of the NWO. But really, what it came down to was a couple of the biggest stars in the WWF went to WCW and simulated an invasion of the WWF taking over WCW. Now, you could go on Peacock and watch that, right? But what I'm going to break down to you is that was kind of a big deal back then. And those wrestlers, Razor Ramon, Diesel, 1-2-3 Kid, $1 Million Man, teamed up with Hulk Hogan and the Giant to form the greatest faction wrestling has ever known. To this day, no one has topped the New World Order. The NWO is such a big deal that it's one of the few IPs the WWE didn't invent that they still make merch for.
That's true.
And they make a lot of merch, and they sell a lot of merch. Like, dude, the NWO changed the game forever in ways that cannot
Agreed.
even be touched. The NWO is the reason why WCW beat Vince McMahon. The NWO is the reason why I started watching WCW, because honestly, I felt like it was an unfair trade, because at that time, I remember you called me up, because you had gotten on, like, the Bleacher Report or some shit, right? And you were like, dude, Diesel and Razor are going to WCW, but Vader's going to WWF. And I was like, fuck, man. They're going to get two, and we're only getting one. And Vader was really the only reason why I watched WCW. Now I got to continue to watch WCW because Diesel and Razor are going, but at least we're getting Vader. And I was happy about that. And thus, Diesel and Razor teamed up with Hulk Hogan, eventually the $1 Million Man, and then, it was them, then the $1 Million Man and the Giant, and then Six Pac. Yeah, and that was the NWO.
Yeah, because I think 6 was actually the sixth member.
6 was the sixth member. That's how you know 6 was number 6.
Yeah, I still remember Ted DiBiase sitting front row at Nitro, and what was it? He held the number 4 up with his fingers and mouthed next week, and then showed 5 fingers. And at the time, we just had Hogan, Nash, and Hall. Yeah.
Well, it was Hall came up first, right? And he came out with that infamous promo. Sorry, you don't know.
I remember that. We were marking out like crazy when he showed up.
Right? Or what is it? You know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here.
That's
right?
it.
And then Kevin Nash shows up a couple weeks later, power bombs Eric Bischoff, and then Hulk Hogan joins at Bash at the Beach '96, betraying WCW and giving a big leg drop to the Macho Man to win one for the New World Order. And then the Giant joined, and they were wondering who was going to be next. And that was when $1 Million Man was in the front row at Nitro. And he said 1, 2, 3, 4, representing the 3 NWO members and the Giant. And he says 5, which was
next
him.
week.
And then next week would have been 6 after that. Yeah, I believe that's how that went. Listen, the NWO is shrouded in mystery, okay? There's no way to know what actually happened unless you were there. And I was there, and I have no clue what I'm talking about. But, again, most of you guys, I'm assuming, have jumped on Peacock and watched all this shit, right? The NWO speaks for itself. No one's ever beaten Vince outside of, like, the law and the NWO. I
don't even know if the law's beaten Vince yet.
The law, right? Almost.
Well,
and also adultery. That's beating Vince. That's beating Vince's ass. But the NWO can't be touched, and it speaks for itself. The fact that they grew to like have 50 billion members and 5 different offshoots. There was the NWO, and then the Wolfpack and NWO Hollywood. Then they did the NWO 2000 with Black and Silver, which actually had a decent roster. I was looking at that, and I was like, it's Jacob and Eli Blue, the Blues Brothers, Hall, Nash, Sting, Jeff Jarrett, and Macho Man, I believe. And I was like, damn.
And Bret Hart.
Oh, yeah, and Bret Hart. And I was like, damn, that was a good-ass, like, NWO. Why did that not go anywhere, right? Like, to think that Bret Hart and Jeff Jarrett were in the NWO.
Well, I mean, you could probably figure out why. It was 99 to 2000. I mean, wasn't the best in terms of creativity for WCW.
Dude, doesn't that make Jeff Jarrett the one guy who's been a member of the NWO and the Bullet Club?
Yeah, I guess so.
Dude, there's no one else who's been in the NWO and the Bullet Club. Jeff Jarrett's in.
You know, I'm looking through the roster list right now. I think you might be right. I was trying to see if Haku may have joined at one point for 5 minutes, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like it was Jeff Jarrett.
The last official member to join the NWO, I think, was it comes down to whether or not you considered Booker T an official member when he was like moonlighting with them and he had NWO gear. But other than that, it would be Shawn Michaels is the last one to actually join the NWO. Because in the story, Booker T at the very end never actually joined the NWO.
He wasn't even in the NWO for a month.
Yeah, he came out with NWO tights like one time. And then they like jumped him. So but I think Shawn Michaels would have been the last member. So yeah, dude, unless Buff Bagwell's going to be too sweet anytime soon, Jeff Jarrett really is the gap. He bridges the gap between generations. Who'd have fucking thought?
That's pretty funny.
When you think of the Bullet Club or NWO, you don't fucking think of Double J. Like, nobody thinks of nobody even thinks of the Road Dogg, who was in DX, which is like the closest thing to the NWO and Bullet Club without, being a direct black and white ripoff. You know? And like, damn, Jeff Jarrett. Holy shit. But yeah, that's That's the NWO, man. Everybody that was anybody in the 90s was in it, and it revolutionized wrestling. They tried to bring it back several times, but it just, that magic
Never was good as the original.
Well, I feel like when WWE brought them back, it would have worked if Scott Hall wasn't at his worst and Kevin Nash didn't get hurt. And Hogan, like, it was just like.
And Shawn wasn't a total druggie.
Well, Shawn was thrown in after it fell apart.
No, he was thrown in towards the end. He got in June of 2002, but the whole group disbanded in July of 2002. But I think that's when Scott Hall got fired. I'm not sure when Nash got hurt. I mean, it just didn't work after that. It sucks. I'm going to be honest. In terms of the NWO, I was hoping that the WWE version in 2002 was going to rekindle that original feel. I felt like that was the biggest chance, and then the boys fucked it up.
Well, I think Hogan leaving the other two, and it's ironic too, because back in the day, Hall and Nash were going to start the Wolfpack and feud with Hogan on the NWO Hollywood. But Hogan politicked because he knew if Hall and Nash were against him, basically his heat as a member of the NWO was over.
Done.
They were the most. Done. They were the over part of their trio.
Yes.
So
Hogan was over. Hogan was over. But Nash and Hall, I think you are right. They would have taken the momentum higher than Hogan.
Yeah, so Hogan politicked to not have them be against him, and it was going to be Hogan and Hall versus Nash. So that way Hogan could latch on to one of the guys that was over. And it's right. Funny that the other two were originally going to leave Hogan behind, but Hogan politicked to keep himself involved. But as soon as they got to the WWF and Hogan got that versus The Rock at WrestleMania pop, he was like,
my God.
He was like, yeah, fuck Hall and Nash. I'm out of here, dude. I'm a real American.
Yeah. You know what, though? How could you have really stopped that? Like, nobody expected that reaction for Hogan going into Mania 18.
They could have just kept turned the NWO babyface. They turned Hogan baby. Why did he have to be a real American? See, that's
you know what though? The whole point of the NWO was for Vince to kill his creation.
Okay, and then you can pivot and say the NWO can't control, and they do their own thing, and now they're back to being a rebel band of merry misfits going around screwing shit up. That's the NWO mantra, is just we're just a bunch of bad guys who run around and just screw everything up. And like that would be in character for them, that they're like, oh, the fans love us because we're great. We're the NWO. We're too sweet. That's exactly what they did in WCW. Like the NWO, I don't see as a heel or babyface faction. They're a tweener faction. Because even when the NWO was at their peak in WCW and they were the biggest heels in the world, they weren't actually positioned as heels because they were fighting, Team WCW, which is Sting, Luger, fucking Steiner Brothers, and then they were also
even those
fighting.
WCW guys would turn heel and have to team up with the baby faces against the NWO.
Yeah, like the Four Horsemen were feuding with the NWO. They were not baby faces. They were heels. Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Mongo McMichaels, right? Like the NWO was always Mongo, Steve McMichaels.
I know.
One of the most important members of the Four Horsemen ever. Who else was in the Horsemen who did more than Flair, Arn Anderson, and Mongo McMichaels? Mongo McMichaels is a former United States champion.
He's also probably one of the worst wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots.
Yeah, well, he held the belt before Bobby Lashley. So there's that. Okay? Don't disrespect the leg. Dude, what was Mongo's legacy? He banged Deborah McMichaels and he was U.S. champ. As far as wrestling goes, I mean, he was a fucking Super Bowl.
He was a part of the main event of WrestleMania 11.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then he sold out to WCW.
He walked out with Lawrence Taylor.
Right. But like that guy was saying, is the NWO I never saw as a heel. So when they came back in the WWE, because they were E by then, they were positioned as a heel. But I'm like, the whole premise of the NWO was the WWF invaded WCW. Why wouldn't they be the returning conquering heroes in the storyline? Huh? Okay, yeah, Diesel, Razor, and Hulk Hogan defeated WCW. It worked. The invasion was a success. Now they're back as the conquering heroes, and and that's how the fans treated them. The fans treated them like that.
I wish that's how they presented him now, because that would have been the best.
Yeah, because they showed up and the fans loved them. They were nostalgic for Hulk Hogan, and a lot of people like brush off Diesel and Razor because the NWO was so big. But a lot of people, myself included, were fucking nostalgic for Diesel and Razor being back in the WWF. Like, that was
Absolutely.
kind of a big deal for me. Was like, dude, like when they showed up, I was like, dude, the fucking Clique is reunited. And they
Right?
never did a Clique storyline other than DX versus
You
NWO.
couldn't.
But
You really couldn't, because Shawn was gone by then.
no, they
Dude,
were
he
all
hadn't
there
even-
at one time. Before Scott Hall got fired, they had brought back Sean Waltman. Kevin Nash was hurt, but he was there. They had Scott Hall, Nash, Triple H, Sean Waltman, Shawn Michaels. Fuck, dude, they had fucking Just Incredible in the fucking hardcore division.
But
Aldo
Shawn Michaels wasn't
Montoya-
wrestling anymore. Shawn Michaels had already retired in '98.
Yeah, but he was still in the NWO as a manager.
Yeah, for
So,
like 3
like,
weeks.
they had a Clique. They could have had the Clique, dude. Aldo Montoya, the only member of the Clique that's, like, legendarily a member that wasn't there at the time would have been Louis Piccoli, who was dead. But
True.
they had every other member of the infamous Clique that I know of, which would have been Hall, Nash, Shawn Michaels, Sean Waltman, Triple H, Aldo Montoya, and Louis Piccoli.
I wouldn't even say. I would call Just Incredible. He just hung around with the Clique. I wouldn't actually call him a Clique member, in my opinion.
Well, I'm just saying, of the people that
Sure.
were notoriously known as being members of that crew. And it's funny
Yeah.
because you look at that and it's like, of all of those names, like, Just Incredible was probably the only one who isn't, like, recognized as, like, a wrestling genius. Because even Louis Piccoli, before he died, was considered a wrestling genius. And Louis Piccoli, also a member of the NWO.
And trained by the guy who trained us.
That's right. That's right. Jesse trained Louis Piccoli. Maybe that's why
That's
we're
right.
so good and good enough to get injured and never wrestle in our life. Well, at least for me. But,
Ugh.
man, that's crazy, dude. Louis Piccoli. Dude, did you know? I forgot Dusty Rhodes was in the NWO. Like,
And you know what I just remembered? So was Scott Norton. Pretty sure Scott Norton had a brief run with the Bullet Club, because I believe he had done a like a battle royal or something like that with
I know
New
that
Japan. Oh, yep, Scott Norton.
Scott Norton.
He actually made appearances as Bullet Club.
Oh, okay. So you know what? I'm actually more comfortable with Scott Norton bridging the gap between NWO and Bullet Club because he was big in NWO Japan.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, him in he was
Good
the
dude,
New
too.
Japan star. Good dude. You met Scott Norton?
Oh, dude, I got to hang out with him for like 2 or 3 hours back in 2019. He was doing a private signing for a friend of mine, and so it was just Scott Norton, my wife, a couple other friends, me, just hanging out with Scott. And I'm kicking myself because he talked about, if we asked him anything, he talked about it. I am kicking myself. I didn't ask him to tell me stories about North Korea. I'm kicking
Oh, shit, he was there.
The next day, I was like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't ask him this.
Dude, Scott Norton is one of those guys that I did not fucking appreciate until later. Like, when he was
Same.
banging around in the NWO, and I'm like, fuck him, dude. Because I remember him being with fucking, what was it, the Ice guy?
Ice Train. They
The
were
Ice
fire
Train?
and ice.
Yeah, like, that's what I... And so when he joined the NWO, I was like, what is this shit? They got Fire and Ice joining
Right.
I was like, come on, man. Like, man, he's whack. They were like whack heel fucking tag team. I was like, this shit's whack. Why would he join the NWO? But then, like, going back and watching his shit in New Japan, and you're like, fuck, dude, Scott Norton was a goddamn beast.
Yeah.
Especially his IWGP run. And they never took advantage of that because WCW, even though they invented the NWO, was dumb as fuck. Never took advantage of Scott Norton being the fucking IWGP.
The best part was he was treated like a low to mid card guy in WCW. He was treated as a star in Japan at the same time.
Yeah, he was their biggest heel. Again, he was kind of...
They love big white dudes.
He was either... Yeah, I mean, look, Lance Archer's making a killing over there. But he was the second white dude other than Vader to get the belt, right? Because
I want to say that's right.
Yeah, he was a big deal, and I did not really appreciate him until way later. And then going back, especially just watching some of, dude, this guy was on the undercard in WCW fighting for like the TV title against like, you know,
Right?
fucking like
Lord Regal.
Scotty Riggs and
That too.
shit like that. And it's like, damn, this guy was a fucking killer in the ring. Why didn't WCW really take advantage? And it's because in the 90s, everybody was racist. Nobody gave a fuck about Japan except for nerds like us.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, you had Hogan, you had Flair, you had Sting, you had Luger, you had Giant. I mean, only
But
so much
see,
room at the top, but I would have loved, looking back, I would have loved a Scott Norton run in WCW as champ.
or even just a fucking proper mid card run, man. They pushed Buff Bagwell. They
Sure.
pushed Scott Steiner. They pushed everybody else, and like Scott Norton was put on the B team with Crush and Stevie Ray, and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Scott Norton's the IWGP champion. Are you telling me he's not that much better than Crush?
Dude was good, man. If they treated him the way New Japan treated him, we would have had a totally different appreciation for Scott in the 90s.
Right? Right? If they would have just showcased him, because I didn't know he was that badass. And that's one of the things from back then, man. Me and we used to go hunting tapes to see this obscure shit. And so, like, even we underappreciated Scott Norton. Scott Norton, my man, apologize on behalf of the rest of the NWO.
Yeah, I think our break into Japan was FMW. I think that was when you and I really started discovering Japan for the first time. Um,
Well, it was hard because I was really into New Japan before FMW and Michinoku Pro. Because of the
oh
crossover from the guys
yeah,
from Michinoku. Because I remember me and you using AOL to look up fucking highlights and clips of fucking Taka and Sasuke and DX and
yeah.
like all of the Michinoku. And they're always going to be DX to me, man.
Kaientai DX.
I can't, I don't know, man. Like, when that was a big, like, turning point for me as a wrestling fan when Shawn Michaels started calling his gang DX. And it was like, dude, Shawn Michaels is ripping off the dudes from Michinoku Pro. Like, Shawn Michaels watches nerdy ass Japanese wrestling like us. Like, that was kind of cool. Like, because the people don't even to this day, people think that Shawn Michaels and Triple H came up with that name. And it's like, no, dude, it was Dick Togo and Men's Teo.
Yeah, but I don't know if they
Shofunaki.
were. I don't know if they were DX because it was Degeneration X.
No, but they used the initials.
They used the initials, yeah, because I think the Degeneration X came from Sergeant Slaughter because he called them a bunch of degenerates. Yeah, and I think that's where it came from. Degenerates to Generation X and then Degeneration X. And there we go.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but Taka and them, and guess what? Japan DX, they were also Japan NWO. They were BWO Japan.
That's right. They were BWO Japan.
Yeah, because when okay, so those of you that don't
that
know,
was the ECW stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so ECW had a satire on the NWO, making fun of the NWO with the Blue World Order, having Big Stevie Cool, the Hollywood Nova, and the Blue Meanie. And then when NWO got an NWO Japan branch in New Japan, the BWO got a BWO Japan branch in Michinoku Pro. And that would have been the guys from DX, Taka, Dick Togo, Men's Teo, Shofunaki.
And there's another link. Dick Togo's in Bullet Club.
Oh, shit. Yeah, but he was never actually in NWO.
No, but he was BW.
But he was BWO and he's in Bullet Club. That's crazy, dude. Now I gotta go see if somebody made a created wrestler for WWE 2K that has Dick Togo in the Bullet Club.
Dick to go.
Because it's hard to find BWO created wrestlers. Those of you out there in wrestling land, if you have created wrestlers for all of Kaientai, man, let me know in the comments. I'm gonna look you up and download that shit. I need Kaientai in my 2K universe.
Oh man, I was recently watching a Taka Michinoku match. It was from a Monday Night Raw, and oh god, who was he wrestling? It wasn't Brian Christopher. Oh shit, I can't even remember the match now.
They only
but
had
dude,
five
Taka's Michinoku driver. I mean, nobody's done it. as good since him. His was so good.
Because he tucked your
Maybe El
head.
Generico, Sami Zayn had a
No.
very good Michinoku, but I think Taka
dude.
originated it, and it's the best.
Because he did the head tuck super late. When he did
Oh
the
yeah,
Michinoku driver, right? Because it's basically a body slam bump, and then you just sit down
it's a
into the
sit down
body.
slam. Yeah,
But Taka
yeah.
would do the head tuck way late. So he'd lift you up and you'd post up for the body slam, and then he'd bring you down, and it would almost be like a pile driver. And then at the last second, he'd tuck your head, and it was more of a neck and shoulder bump the way Taka did it. It was not a back bump, but like it looked like an actual pile driver / brain buster.
It looked nasty, but was safe as hell.
Yeah, because really, you're not really bumping in it. You're doing more of a controlled 3/4 roll on that thing. Really.
Basically, yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, there was ones I watched Taka do where I'm like, yeah, you drove that dude down on his shoulders.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, they were so clean. His Michinokus were just go find because I don't think he's done it since he became Sami Zayn. But go find El Generico doing some of those. He tucks way late. They ain't no 3/4 rolls. Them are drivers.
Damn. But yeah, that's basically a little bit of background on the NWO and Taka Michinoku.
Well, I guess it's my turn. And, I'm sure you guys have now just figured out what sides we're taking on this battle. I'm taking Bullet Club, so I'm going to go on a brief history of Bullet Club. Started in 2013, the core 4 members are Prince Devitt, who is now known as Finn Balor, Bad Luck Fale, the Machine Gun, Carl Anderson, and Tama Tonga.
Current never champion.
What the current never champion? You are absolutely
Don't
right.
forget that.
And this was interesting because it was an all Gaijin faction. I don't believe there had been a single one of those before.
Well,
I think this was the first time we've had a full-on all Gaijin faction in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Gaijin is just they're foreigners. These are the people they bring in, whether it's from the U.S., UK, the non-Japanese wrestlers. They consider Gaijin.
People think that the Bullet Club is basically the evil white people, and it's like, no, Bad Luck Fale is Samoan. It's not white people in Japan. It's he's Tongan. My bad. Yeah, that's right. My bad.
It's from New Zealand. Yeah.
But it's
a Kiwi too.
Foreigners. So Gaijin is the Japanese word for foreigner. It's not white people. It's just the ones that are famous are generally the white people, except for Gorillas of Destiny and Bad Luck Fale and all that. But that's why it's always a big deal when a Japanese person joins the Bullet Club, because the Bullet Club is not like a white thing. It's more of an anti-Japan, we're the evil foreigners. So when a Japanese guy joins the Bullet Club, it's even more disrespectful. Like, why would you join the foreigners?
Right. So, like I mentioned, those were the core 4 members of Bullet Club, the founding members. Throughout the year, they added Young Bucks, which, I mean, perfect fit for Bullet Club with what they were doing. And Carl Anderson has actually come out and said it was a tribute to the NWO. That's why they do the click hand sign. That's why and the Bucks were doing the suckets. I mean, it was just perfect spot for the Bucks to go into. And coming along next was Doc Gallows. And here's a cool fact about Gallows.
Wait,
Gallows
the Bucks
and Anderson
joined before Gallows?
Yeah, like a month before. They joined in October of 13. I want to say Gallows was announced in November.
Wow, I did not I thought Gallows came in before the Bucks. Holy shit.
Nope. Bucks came in about a month before. And dude, they came in they came in during the 2013 Super Junior Tag Tournament, won the tournament, then defeated Taichi and Taka Michinoku to win the junior tag titles.
Damn.
That was their entrance into New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Dude, full circle. They just beat Taka Michinoku. Man.
Dude, right?
Dude, we should try to figure out a 6 degrees of Taka Michinoku. Everything goes
Holy
back.
Crap,
Everything goes back to Taka Michinoku.
Let's see if we can get Danny Hodge linked up to Taka Michinoku.
Right. Okay, so Gallows joined.
Gallows got brought in towards the end of 2013. Here's a funny thing. Gallows and Anderson never met prior to Gallows joining Bullet Club. Gato, the booker, was like, hey, we're bringing in Gallows. We think he should be a part of you guys. And they just put Gallows and Anderson together. And then Carl Anderson said, I met Gallows, and yep, he fit in right away.
right?
I mean,
And
no surprise there.
he had the
And
sick
here,
face paint too back then.
yeah. And so here's the thing: he came in 2013, and so Bucks won the Super Junior tag tournament. Gallows and Anderson won the World Tag League that year too, and then the heavyweight tag titles at Wrestle Kingdom.
So they,
Like, and so right now, so what? We're up to 6 people in Bullet Club, and 4 of them had titles.
all the tag
For
titles.
all the tag belts. Prince Devitt had won the Super Junior tournament earlier that year, but he had moved up to heavyweight. I don't think he ever won a heavyweight title, but he did win the Super Junior tournament during his Bullet Club leadership run. He got kicked out of the group because he signed with WWE in 2014, and his replacement, the phenomenal AJ Styles. What happens when Styles comes in? First night, boom, takes out Okada. Month later, pins Okada for the heavyweight championship. And that's actually when the first Japanese guy joined Bullet Club. Yujiro Takahashi, I believe, helped AJ to win the title. And he was originally, I wanted a team with Tetsuya Naito. They were called No Limit.
Yeah.
And so he joined Bullet Club, the first Japanese wrestler to join Bullet Club. And he went on. I love Yujiro. I love the Pimp Club. I love all the pimp stuff he does. He comes out with her name is Peter, but if you follow her on any social media, it's like her name on like Instagram is Muffin Ass. It's really weird. Yeah. So Yujiro came in. You saw Bad Luck Fale win the Intercontinental title. Kenny Omega joined at the end of 2014. And then at the beginning of 2015, won the junior heavyweight title. AJ would win the IWGP heavyweight title for a second time. And man, Bullet Club was running strong at this point. I'll be honest, I didn't think at this point, because I was already a fan. I was a fan of Devitt because I had seen him in LA before he went to New Japan. He had come out from I forget what they called it. NWA Hammerlock, I want to say, was the company in Ireland. So he came out to the LA New Japan dojo, and that's how he got found for New Japan, and they signed him, brought him over. So since I had seen Devitt in Southern California, I was interested. But when AJ came in, holy shit, dude! My interest for Bullet Club, well, I thought at that moment my interest for Bullet Club had peaked. Dude, when AJ showed up.
That had to have been like the best thing for AJ too, because like that, I feel like his Bullet Club run was what cemented his legacy.
He said he didn't even have an offer on the table from WWE in 2014.
Yeah. Like his run in New Japan is really like everybody knew that AJ Styles was good in TNA. Like we all knew that.
We all knew that.
But TNA kind of like AJ Styles back then kind of got the Roman Reigns treatment. And like he was kind of thrown down your throat as like, yo, this is the next big star. And it's like, dude, you've been around for 10 years. Like, when is he going to be the big star? Like, they kept throwing him down your throat like this is the next big star. And it's like, dog, he's like a 2-time champ.
The TNA fucked him up, dude. Towards the end, like, he even said recently, he's like, TNA made me leave. They did everything they could to make me leave. Like, they lowered his pay, all of this. And he was like, fuck this. I was actually at the TNA show, Bound for Glory in San Diego. I had done some security work for them the night before because they did a Bound for Glory fan fest in San Diego the night before Bound for Glory. And so I did some security work, and as payment, they gave everyone who helped out free tickets. And it's funny, they asked all the security. So if you came to Bound for Glory in San Diego and you took pictures with all the guys at the fan fest, every single person that was taking your photo and making sure the cues for those lines, those were all SoCal indie wrestlers.
Damn, dude.
They used indie guys to be security and photographers.
Dude, somebody could have totally been like taken to their seat by like Scorpio Sky or some shit.
No, dude. It was no one ever that. Sky was on a different level. These were all San Diego based guys. So they contacted Jeff Dino, who runs SoCal Pro Wrestling, and Jeff called his students, called me. Since Jeff and I are friends, my tag partner. So I mean, like we were there. Like the people I got to work with were Mike Tenay, who was awesome as hell. Willie Urbina, I think he was their Spanish guy. Spanish commentator guy. Actually, I think he just got fired from AEW last year for. I think he either said something derogatory on air or something like that. So I worked with them too. I managed their cues, but then I did Daniels and Kazarian. Those guys were cool as hell.
Oh, dude. Hanging out.
Yeah,
That would
listening
be
to them
fun
talk
just,
shit was so funny.
or even just hanging out with Kazarian, because it's like me and you have known Kazarian for a long time. So it's like that would have just been chilling with the homie.
He didn't remember me, so I actually brought it up to him, and he's like, "Oh shit!"
Really? Because he
Yeah,
always,
he didn't remember. He didn't remember by my face because I just said, "Hey, I'm
Oh,
Trevor." Whatever. Sorry, Ryan. Kayfabe, brother. Um,
always protect
no,
the
that's out there.
business. Always protect
The business. So I introduced myself. He didn't remember me, but when I told him, I was like, "Hey, man, I had done some training with you at Jesse's school," and then I told him because I had most recently, I want to say it was probably three or so years before that. I said I had booked you in a match with B Boy. It was our company's debut show, and he goes, "Yeah." Then he remembered me, but it wasn't
Ah,
until then.
ah.
Um, but no, dude, those guys were funny as hell. Even so, Dixie Carter actually, this is when they were still owned it. Dixie Carter actually got up on stage at the Fan Fest and was trying to tell people, "Oh, go buy the merch." And she holds up her shirt because she actually had a Dixie Carter shirt. She goes, "You can get the Dixie Carter shirt." Man, Christopher Daniels, I just hear him go, "You're taking money out of the boys' pockets."
Damn.
I was dying.
She's trying to sell a Dixie Carter shirt. Who the fuck is gonna wear a Dixie Carter shirt?
Oh, it was great. Anyway, back to Bullet Club. Uh, so yeah, I thought AJ with Bullet Club was gonna. That was my peak of Bullet Club fandom. Boy, was I wrong.
Right?
Boy, was I wrong. Holy crap. So the day after Wrestle Kingdom 10, I wouldn't say the day after, a few hours after Wrestle Kingdom 10, it comes out that AJ, Carl Anderson, Doc Gallows, and Shinsuke Nakamura are all leaving and going to WWE. That blew my mind. I hadn't even seen. I think I watched Wrestle Kingdom the next day because at that point I wasn't. They didn't have. I don't believe they had it a way to watch live. I could be wrong, but I don't recall that one. So I know I watched it the next day, but I had already heard the news that all four of those guys were leaving. And dude, that was the AJ Nakamura match. That that was so good. If you want to watch a match this week, go back and watch AJ versus Nakamura from Wrestle Kingdom 10. They might have it for free on New Japan's YouTube, but go on New Japan World and watch it. Worth every penny.
Right? Especially because people didn't know. Nobody knew except for
At
AJ
that
and
time.
Nakamura that was going to be their last match in New Japan. So they
Yeah.
really tore into it and really went all out. And then it was like after the fact, everybody was like, fuck, dude. Like that added more shine to the match.
So the next day after Wrestle Kingdom 10, Kenny Omega would beat up AJ Styles. They just done a tag match. AJ was posing. At that point, it was out. Everyone knew. So AJ was standing on the second rope. Kenny's in there. Kenny walks up, pulls him off the rope. Bam! One winged angel. Oh, so good. That crowd was like, oh, that was a gasp moment. And then the Bullet Club they were torn. They're like, do we beat up AJ? Then they all beat up AJ.
Then they beat
Oh, man. And, dude, AJ's going away. When he stood up he got left alone in the ring, it stood up. And when he stood up and bowed, watch that crowd. Holy shit. That was a crowd that I mean they gave him all the respect he deserved. Everything. That was cool. That was a moment that I still remember watching AJ bowing as he left Japan. That was so cool. But we were about to reach a Bullet Club era that hasn't even been touched since.
Right? Thanks
Dude,
to
this
Hot
Kenny
Topic.
Omega era, I mean, they just set record after record after record. I mean, this was the best era of Bullet Club until today, I believe. I believe that today's Bullet Club is actually really good, and I can't wait to see what happens. Anyway, dude, Kenny leaves the junior heavyweight division, becomes a heavyweight. Tonga Loa shows up, and God is formed. Adam Cole, Hangman Page joined Bullet Club. Cody Rhodes comes in.
Jeff Jarrett.
Marty Skrull comes in. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't count any of those people. I honestly, I didn't. They were like friends of the Bullet Club. You know, like even Haku, I consider him like you're only a member because you showed up with your kids, Tamatonga and Tongaloa.
Yeah, because like
Um,
Hangman was more of a Ring of Honor guy at that time than a New
right,
Japan
but
guy.
Ring of Honor and New Japan were very tight at this time. This was when there was a lot of cross promotion. This was when like New Japan young boys would go on excursion and they'd go to Ring of Honor. That's what Jay White did. When Jay White went from being a young boy, he went on excursion to the U.S. and he did Ring of Honor. That was where I first saw Jay White and Will Ospreay just have an absolute barn burner of a match. Um, so their relationship was super tight at this time. That's why you saw Cole, Hangman, Red Dragon was in New Japan at this time.
Oh yeah.
Jay Lethal came in and defended the ROH title at a Wrestle Kingdom. Like that, New Japan and ROH had a very deep relationship, a very mutual beneficial relationship at this time. Um,
All because of the Bullet Club and Hot Topic.
well, that's what we're getting to. Kenny, the Bucks, Cody. I mean, you just had Hangman, Cole, and then everybody else that was still in Bullet Club. God, Bad Luck Fale. I think Chase Owens came in around this time. But I mean, you had some very prominent people that just brought so much attention to New Japan. And at this time, New Japan started becoming a lot more accessible to the Western fans. They started doing shows in Long Beach. They started doing more shows in the States. I mean, hell, in 2019 they did the first night of the G1 in Dallas, Texas. So they started to do a lot more stuff in the United States, and man, this was the biggest. And yes, to your point about Hot Topic, a Hot Topic exec was sitting at WrestleMania 33 in the WWE suite. I want to say talking to Stephanie, and he saw all these Bullet Club shirts. And he's like, whoa, I want to sell those in my store. And WWE had to break it to him. That ain't us.
Right?
Hot Topic sought out New Japan to get Bullet Club merch in their stores, which led, and I believe this was around so Pro Wrestling Tees, I think, was just kicking off around this time. And so you had the Young Bucks were selling Bullet Club shirts. Kenny was selling Bullet Club shirts on there. You were seeing Bullet Club shirts for sale at Ring of Honor shows. But holy crap, when I walked in, I bought my first ever Bullet Club shirt at a Hot Topic. And it blew my mind that I was buying a wrestling shirt based on something happening in Japan at a store where I'm at in Colorado. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, that really
that blew my mind.
Like
that blew my mind.
I remember seeing the Omega and Bucks shirts in Hot Topic, and I was just like,
Dude.
holy shit. And it's funny because, like, I actually did not like it. I was actually mad because I was like, fuck, because that was around the time when Hot Topic was moving away from, like, metal, goth, industrial, like, fashion and music and becoming
just
more
pop culture.
to just pop culture. So I was like, fuck, dude, they have wrestling shit here now? And I was, like, mad because I was like, I love wrestling, but this is not the place for it. And now
they've been selling WWE shirts for a long time. Like after you and I kind of stopped checking out Hot Topic because we grew up,
right? We got hair on our nuts.
They started selling WWE shirts. I had gone there and bought like New Day stuff because I just didn't want to wait to get it shipped. Plus, I could pay $20 instead of 20 plus shipping.
Right.
And it was the same reason why I bought my New Japan shirts. I knew I could have bought them from Pro Wrestling Tees. Or I could just save on the shipping and go buy them at Hot Topic. Dude, I bought New Japan shirts there. They went from just selling Bullet Club to all of New Japan. There was just New Japan logo shirts. Like, man, it was... that was a massive deal. A company in Japan had distribution through a national chain, a U.S. national chain. Insane. Insane to me. Now, I will say they were all printed by Pro Wrestling Tees. It wasn't like they shipped the merch from Japan. They were printed in Chicago and then distributed to Hot Topic from there.
Yeah, but that's still brand awareness in America they didn't have.
Impact Wrestling had been around at this point for 15 years?
Yeah, and
they didn't have stuff in Hot Topic.
Yeah, they could never come up with a gimmick that hot. I think that had more to do with just honestly at that point in time, basically every indie wrestler who was hot was a member of the Bullet Club. It was kind of like
And you know what the best part about that time
avoid.
was? Every indie wrestler had a Bullet Club ripoff shirt. Like
Right?
it would be, whatever club and have a different, instead of the Bone Soldier, it would be a different logo beneath it. But it was the same font and everything. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. But dude, that was the biggest time for Bullet Club. They had the most visibility. But I'm also going to say this, towards the end of this run is also when I think Bullet Club was at its almost worst. I think the worst part of Bullet Club was in the 2020s, which I'm about to get to. So after the Elite announced they had left Bullet Club, so that was Kenny, Cody, Bucks, and Hangman, because I think Cole had already left. Marty Scurll was still there, but he was still in New Japan. But this was when the Elite was when AEW was starting to become a thing. They were starting the seeds for this. So towards the end of 2018 is when the Elite left Bullet Club. And I'm going to say this, they did a whole Civil War angle where Cody and Kenny fought over who was the leader. And then GOD had their Bullet Club firing squad, or the BCOGs. I did not like that era of Bullet Club. It just got convoluted to me. It wasn't they had too many people. I just didn't care. I was like, I don't want Kenny and Cody fighting over who's the leader. I don't want an Elite versus the BCOGs. To me, it felt too much like NWO Black and White versus NWO Red and Black. I didn't care. Like, I was like, been there, done that, and that's what tainted the waters, in my opinion, for the NWO. And then, but the good thing about it was, when the Elite left, Jay White showed up. Jay White turned on Chaos and brought over Gato, Jado, and he joined Bullet Club, where he became the leader. And I think under Jay White is where we're going to see the resurgence of Bullet Club.
Well,
And even with today's Bullet Club, and they had so many people in there, and like I said, in the 2020s, they added Evil, they added Dick Togo,
Kenta.
And Kenta I thought was a good addition, but Evil I didn't think ever fit. They added Sho, who was a part of Roppongi 3K with Yo. When they disbanded, Sho turned on Yo and he joined Bullet Club. Again, I didn't care. I think they were doing this because during the pandemic, all the foreigners couldn't get into Japan, so their bigger stars weren't there. So Jay White wasn't there, and I think that's where they ran into trouble, and that's why they started adding all these people. The one Japanese I did like was Taiji Ishimori had defected from Pro Wrestling Noah and signed with New Japan, and they called him the Bone Soldier. They had a previous character called Bone Soldier. It was just Captain New Japan in a different mask, and he sucked. But he was just supposed to be the Bullet Club jobber. And I didn't care for that, but they called Ishimori the new Bone Soldier. And dude, Ishimori's the man. He's currently the junior heavyweight champion.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Ishimori is dope. But like right now, I think Bullet Club's got a few too many people, and where I see they have too many people is the House of Torture group. Just make them their own group. House of Torture. They don't fit in with Bullet Club, in my opinion. Get rid of them. But one of the biggest surprises that I popped so hard for when he did, Juice Robinson, who doesn't have social media, was doing interviews saying, yeah, I'm kind of done with Japan. I think I'm going to be done with wrestling altogether. I want to be back in the States. He just got married to Toni Storm. And he was done, And then out of nowhere, he shows back up, but he shows back up and joins Bullet Club. And then wins the U.S. title. Like, that was a shocker of a join. But yeah, dude, I think this era of Bullet Club is probably going to be one of my favorites. And we've got Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, Dick Togo, Evil, Gato, Kenta, Sho, Ishimori, Dot Gallows, Carl Anderson, Juice Robinson, Jay White, El Phantasmo, and Hikuleo. From Impact, Chris Bay and Ace Austin have also joined, but they're kind of doing like a U.S. Japan version of both. But both Ace Austin and Ace Austin was just in the best of the Super Juniors in Japan, which I thought was awesome. And he did great.
Just lost the X Division belt at the
He
last
just
Impact show.
Yeah, he did to Speedball. But I think if we get rid of Evil, Dick Togo, and Show, I think you're going to have a little bit of a tighter. And Yujiro, I hate to say it, but Yujiro Takahashi too. Sorry, Yuj. I think it's time to get kicked out. But I think if you do that, you're going to bring a better core New Japan, or I'm sorry, Bullet Club to New Japan.
Well, and also I feel like Bullet Club right now has too many Japanese guys in it. The whole point of it was that it was foreigners. So it's cool when there's one, because then it's a big deal. And I feel like Kenta fits like as that one Japanese guy because he left and went to WWE and he came
But he
back.
was never even a New Japan guy. He was always Pro Wrestling Noah. So to me, he's an outsider. Same with Taiji Ishimori. He's an outsider. He's not New Japan. I like that too.
Yeah, so them being in there, it makes sense. But like a lot of those guys, a lot of the basically, like you said, House of Torture, like most of the Japanese guys shouldn't be in the Bullet Club, and that's just because Bullet Club isn't a heel faction; it's the foreign faction. That would be, to me, that's like Hulk Hogan turning heel and joining the League of Nations. It's like, what? Like, it works when it's Hulk Hogan, but once you start adding other Americans, it's like, okay, now they're not the evil foreign team. They're just bad guy Americans.
It was like when Stone Cold joined the Alliance. What?
Yeah, like, why would Stone Cold be the leader of the WCW team? Like, what the fuck? You know?
That makes no sense.
So yeah, I agree that the Bullet Club is currently bloated, but I'm honestly, dude, I like Anderson and Gallows and Jay White, and I think that this is the best work that those three have done in their career. And everybody else in the Bullet Club is, you know, they're all interesting to watch, but I feel like Anderson and Gallows have really reinvented themselves since getting back with the Bullet Club. And Jay White he's the ace of New Japan right now.
Absolutely. You know, and I mean, obvious by being the world heavyweight champ. But like, dude, and I'll tell you, this is exactly why I think Bullet Club is a better group than the NWO. I think you have better. It's hard. This is going to sound like I'm shitting on everybody in the NWO. I'm not. Obviously, people like Bret Hart, Nash, Hall, Six. These are all fantastic workers. But I think Bullet Club has had better workers as a whole, if that makes any sense. Between AJ, Kenny, Devitt, Jay White.
See, I'm not
Bucks,
gonna. I can't give you that one. Them
Kenta.
being better. I can't give you them being better workers because all of those guys built their styles around what the guys in the NWO did. Like, dude, all that spot monkey shit, all of the fucking every spot match with a fucking gimmick, all goes back to Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 10 ladder match.
Wasn't even the first ladder match.
It wasn't the first ladder match, but Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, and Shawn Michaels created magic there. And a lot of like the work rate, like I mean, I guess I don't like using the term work rate because worker, for me and you, worker has a different connotation. So for those of you that don't know, like when we were studying in the business, what's known as a good worker is that it's somebody that works good. Like they're on time. Like they're not drunk.
It's more than just in ring.
Yeah, so like that's why I don't like when Smarks use that term because I'm like, no, because if you're actually in the business, when we use the term good worker, it doesn't mean somebody that can do a lot of flips. In the business, a good worker is like, no, dude, like if I call Kevin Nash, he will show up to the date on time with his gear. He'll put on a good show. He'll put on a good, and that's where it came from. They'll have good matches. Because it's like, okay, he'll show up on time, be professional, prepared with his gear, and he'll have a good match. And people kind of stopped with and they'll have a good match, and now having a good match means a good worker. But I think that a lot of the good workerness that came from the Bullet Club was because they were inspired by the shit Six Pac and Scott Hall were doing 20 years ago.
Sure, but I mean, you got Kenny Omega, who, yes, you do have to credit Okada, that they had a trio of matches, 4 if you count the G1, that are considered some of the best matches, potentially, depends on your view, in wrestling history. You know, especially if you go back and watch that Wrestle Kingdom match where Kenny did not win the title from Okada
You're
in
telling me
2017.
you're telling me that was better than Shawn Michaels Diesel 1 and 2 Good Friends Better Enemies?
Yes.
All right, I co-sign that. I'll give you that one.
I mean, you got that. No member of the NWO can say they're a part of one of the greatest matches of all time. That maybe Bret Hart can. Bret Hart can. But that's probably it.
And Bret Hart isn't a real member of the, like, he is a real member, but nobody considers Bret Hart. When I think of the NWO, I don't
think of Bret Hart.
I think of the NWO.
The original.
I don't even think of the original. To me, the
I do.
NWO, like the iconic NWO, was before the Wolfpack. When it was just this huge swarm of black and white T-shirts, and they just had like everybody, and they actually felt like a threat. Like, yo, dude, are there any WCW guys left? When they splintered and had different factions, I felt like it was like, dude, they can't win. They're divided, right? But
it watered it down. NWO took a dump when they split them apart.
Yeah,
it was the worst thing to do creatively, in my opinion. I got it. You had, 45 people in the NWO. I get it. But they watered it down.
Yeah, I don't think Virgil should have ever joined the NWO or IRS. But I do like Big Boss Man.
You got IRS, you got Big Bubba Rogers, you've got Tenzan. Well, Tenzan was part of NWO Japan. Conan, Kurt Hennig, Rick Rude, Louis Spicolli, Dusty Rhodes, Brian Adams, The Disciple, Nick Patrick.
Great Muda.
The Nasty Boys. Now, I'm going to give you Great Muda and Tenzan because they were NWO Japan.
Masahiro Chono.
NWO Japan. I'll give you this. I like them as NWO Japan.
Chono was so sick. Why did they never fucking do shit with him in the WCW?
Because they didn't give a shit about him.
Because he was a fucking legend in New Japan. Fuck, he was dope.
Yeah. But like, there's so many people that I just didn't care for that were in the original NWO, and I think in 2020 is when Bullet Club got a little bit watered down by this, and I think that the Bullet Club Civil War it kind of turned it into the NWO Black and White versus NWO Red and Black, which I didn't care for. I did like the Wolfpack. I liked the Wolfpack more than I liked Black and White, but I mean, we had Sting, we had Luger, we had Nash,
Conan.
Yeah, we had Conan.
Man, I know you don't like Conan, but he was my favorite member of the Wolfpack. He Arriba La Raza.
Arriba La Raza. Could you have said that any whiter?
No, dude. No, Conan was the shit, man. Conan,
but like, dude, NWO just. And think about this. What? Think about this. The NWO, as you think about it, the original NWO lasted from July 7 of 96 to April 27 of 98. That's right when the split happened. So you just got a little over 2 years. No, not even 2 years. A little under 2 years. Sorry. But you've had New Japan now, Bullet Club now for 9 years. And even though it spans multiple promotions, I'm only going to count one. In New Japan, Bullet Club has held 56 championships.
Yeah, but here's the deal. The NWO, okay, you can use their short time under the sun as ammo against them, whereas I say that that's a bonus. The NWO was a moment in time. It was a flash. You had to be there. It was so good that goodness couldn't last. The NWO had to be only 2 years. It couldn't get dragged out and watered down. And one of the biggest problems with the Bullet Club, you said, is that it got watered down. More than the NWO. There was a point where basically anybody in Ring of Honor and like the independent scene was like a member of the Bullet Club.
Kind of. It did get a little that way, but I also think there were people that were just like, I'm friends with the Bullet Club people, so I'm going to wear Bullet Club merch. Like, there was a guy running around calling himself a Bullet Club guy. He was just a buddy of Doc Gallows. He was never a part of the club in any way, shape, or form. There was that happening. I think officially it was getting watered down, but unofficially there was even more watered down. And that's why I kind of like today's. It's a little bit watered. You got a little too many people. I think if you cut 4 or 5 people you're going to have a great core of folks in Bullet Club.
Well,
but like I said, man, dude, 56 championships compared to like 33. And that's going from 1996 to 2001. So in
yeah,
what,
but
5
all of
years?
WCW's titles were worthless. They had two titles that were worth the shit: the World Title and the Cruiserweight Title. And the NWO has held both of them.
Yeah.
So
once they held the cruiserweight title once, and it was by 6. The world title was held 9 times. Hogan held it 5, Nash 2, Savage 1, Brett 1.
dude, we had the Macho Man. How do I fucking forget the Macho? No, dude, NWO wins based on Macho Man, brother.
Dude, and Bullet Club wins based on Kenny, AJ, the Bucks. Period. That's it. That's all you really got to say. They're going to go down as 4 of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
I'll give you that. And I'll give you that this current iteration is probably the best. And I think that New Japan was smart to put the Bullet Club behind Jay White.
And think about this. When you talk about how big it was for them to get into Hot Topic, sure, NWO sold much more stuff. NWO merch, they probably made millions for Turner. It was a company here in the States that was also already on United States national television. What you had with Bullet Club wasn't here in the States. It was in Japan.
We want to talk about shirts? Okay, NWO's shirt is better because it was designed by Disney.
No, it wasn't.
Yes,
it
was.
You're fucking with me.
Nope. That's the legend, was that Eric Bischoff, right? Because WCW used to film at Disney in Orlando.
Yes.
They filmed Saturday night there, and when they were trying to come up with a logo for the NWO, they didn't have an artist on hand, so Eric Bischoff went and grabbed one of the Disney artists and had them come up with a couple of sketches for the logos, and the guy came back with 10, and the one that we have today was one of those 10s. One of those 10, yes, the NWO logo was designed by a Disney artist. Boom! Mic drop.
Google will tell you different.
Yeah, but Google is fucking, no, dog, that's fake news, okay?
Hey,
that's the rumor I had heard on Eric Bischoff's podcast.
So, in one of these wiki articles, it says the logo was designed by Paul Orndorff. Scott Hall is credited with coming up with the hand signal, and Terry Taylor is credited with the catchphrase of "When you're NWO for life."
See, now the hand gesture came from Six. That's like known. That Six.
Well, that was the click. That was the click hand gesture.
Yeah, but they can't sit there and say Scott Hall came up with that when it's
no.
known.
Scott Hall was the one that wanted to use it for the NWO.
I was gonna say because Six was using that shit when he was 1, 2, 3 Kid.
Well, yeah, he was the click. No, but they weren't, because if you noticed when Scott and Kevin came in, they weren't doing the hand gesture.
Yeah.
That wasn't until a little bit later that they started doing the hand gesture. And it was Scott. It says Scott was the one who decided that they should use that.
You know what? It could have been Paul Orndorff who was the one that settled on that logo. Because I remember Eric Bischoff in the podcast was like, yo, just give me a logo. And like they settled on that one. But they used an artist from Disney.
That'd be crazy. Like that'd be pretty cool if that's the truth. Yeah. I would actually mark out if Disney created the NWO logo.
Not Disney, but it was a Disney artist.
I'll give you this. NWO, I think, in my opinion, has a greater impact on the wrestling business than New Japan or than Bullet Club does.
Dude, I've got my nuke coming up. You better make this one hard.
Bullet Club, I think, was the better of the faction. Was a better faction. It was a better managed faction. It was a better run faction. Even at its bloatiest, whatever. Even at its largest, when it's the most bloated, I still think Bullet Club was better than the NWO.
Okay, here's my nuke. This is one that I was holding back, but now that we're coming towards the end of the show, I'm going to unleash my one nuke that destroys every argument about the Bullet Club.
Do it.
The NWO led to guaranteed contracts, thus revolutionizing the way the industry is paid out forever. The Bullet Club did not change the way the industry functions.
Neither did the NWO.
did. Yeah, because that was it. The guaranteed contracts. When Scott Hall and Kevin Nash signed, Scott Hall negotiated guaranteed contracts, and part of their guaranteed contract was that they were going to be the highest paid people under Sting and Ric Flair. So anytime anybody signed with WCW who was going to make that much money, Hall and Nash got an instant pay raise. That's what happened when they signed Bret Hart. And that changed
Favored nations, I think.
everything. Dude, like that, you can't even understate how much guaranteed contracts changed everything, and I'm crediting that to the NWO because Scott Hall was the one that negotiated that, who created that, and it was specifically to bring him in to start the NWO until the Bullet Club does something that impacts the way the entire industry functions. I can't give him one over the NWO, bro. That's my nuke.
Hey, counterpoint. Hall and Nash changed the business, not the NWO. The NWO was not the idea when Hall and Nash came in. They had the idea, they didn't know it was going to be called the New World Order. They were just bringing in Scott Hall and Kevin Nash, and they got those 20-minute those contracts.
No,
20, or whatever.
I'm
guaranteed contracts. Not 20.
I'm not giving
guaranteed
this hill
contracts.
Up. Name any member of the Bullet Club who has done anything on that level.
No, you can't. You can't
exactly.
Even, but you can't say that the NWO created guaranteed contracts.
You
could say that Hall
me,
and Nash got guaranteed contracts, which changed the business.
Be technical, Scott Hall founded the NWO in kayfabe, in canon. He was the first one to show up and got the ball rolling.
I'm gonna keep this in my back pocket for the first time when AEW finally beats Raw or SmackDown. I'll take either one.
I'll give you that.
As soon as they beat Vince, Bullet Club, Kenny and the Bucks and Cody being in Bullet Club and being the elite is what created AEW.
I'll give you that when AEW beats Vince, but the thing is, NWO already did it, baby.
Yeah, and then they also took down an entire company by how poor, because that company was so horribly mismanaged, they let people like Kevin Nash book.
Right, Kevin Nash should have never been a booker. That was the most dumbest shit. But either way, we are out of time. I want you guys to go ahead and let us know who you're siding with in this argument, because I believe the NWO cannot be touched. Settle for no pretenders. Trust only the original.
Oh, no, it's Bullet Club. Bullet Club for life.
Find out or let us know in the comments who's the sweetest. It's Shonuff. Shonuff is the sweetest.
Shonuff is the master.
And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this video, and then hit up all of our links in the description. We got Twitters, we got Discords, we got Twitch accounts where I live stream, and Ryan Stone, he doesn't do any of that, but he's got a Twitter.
I got a Twitter, Ryan Stone SD. I actually live tweeted Forbidden Door. Come talk to me.
Yeah. He usually does play-by-play tweets with the pay-per-view, so he's definitely a fun follow. So make sure you check him out, and we will see you guys next week on Play Fighting.
Scissor me!
Scissor me, Daddy Bass!